Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Restoring the Kingdom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Halsey English, with my co-host Noam Roth. We're here going to talk about the Israeli elections and what this means. As Wednesday, it seems do or die that Israel might go to yet another round of early elections. But is their system? What is their parliamentary system? How does it work? How do the parties work? What is likely to happen? We're going to explore all of that. And if you have any questions, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on email. We'll put those links in the description. How you doing, bud?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I breathe in, breathe out, repeat when necessary.
Yeah, that seems to be the right way to go. So, as you said, there's gonna be a voting on Wednesday to dissolve the government. Whether Netanyahu gets to an agreement or not with the Haredi parties, there is going to be a voting. Um,
Well, what is the issue with the Haredi parties to begin with?
okay, so I organized a little bit of a background, basically a short way to show how we got to this point, what brought us here. So funny enough, or not funny enough, there's going to be an entity here that will come up a lot that you will recognize the first time I'll say it, which is going to be the first thing I'm going to say. So it actually doesn't start from 2022 when the latest elections were. It starts essentially this round of chaos already has been brewing from 2017. In 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that exemptions for Haredi yeshiva students from the IDF are quote unquote unconstitutional.
So
Um,
let's give a quick background on that. So at the founding of the State of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, who was the head of the labor movement and also going to be Israel's first prime minister for I think its first 20 or 30 years, made a deal with the religious people that were living in Eretz Israel at the time that they would support the state in return for certain concessions. One, that the Israeli rabbinate would stay in charge of marriage. There would not be a civil marriage system. The second, that government services would not operate on Shabbat. And that yeshiva students would be given an exemption from military service when they were in yeshiva learning. The
yeah,
justification of the last one was that the yeshivas were decimated by World War II and that we needed to fill them back up again with people willing to learn Torah.
yeah, exactly. And there hasn't been too much of a back and forth about it until roughly 15, 20 years ago when the issue actually became an issue rather than just
Hmm.
a quirk of Israel. Um, so in 2017, the Supreme Court ruled, um, I can't remember if it was unanimously or not, but that any exemptions for yeshiva students is quote unquote unconstitutional. Where is it unconstitutional? I don't know. Not in Israel because we don't have a constitution, but somewhere. It's unconstitutional, therefore it's here as well. And this brings us to 2022, that after the latest dissolvement of a Knesset by Bennett because of the settler law that he wanted to, whatever, story for a different time. Likud won. And I organized that because I'm sure we're going to do more about elections, especially if we're going to go to elections. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but the makeup of everything, the parties, the people here is very important. So in 2022, the Likud won with 32 uh, seats out of 120. And then the coalition became um, Tzionut Datit. One second, sorry.
Hmm.
Tzionut Datit.
Religious and Zionist.
Yes, this is Smotrich's party with 7 votes. Otzma Yehudit, which is Ben Gvir, with 6 votes. Shas with 11 votes. Degel Torah, which is Gimel, seven
Hmm.
votes. Another tiny party called Noam, hi,
Uh,
one vote, one seat. I mean, Hayamina Mamlachti, which is Sar, 4 points, 4 seats, and altogether that was 68. A very slim majority, but Netanyahu has done great with slimmer majorities. So that's what happened in
for sure.
2022. That was the makeup of the coalition. Now it brings us to actually almost exactly a year ago. In the 25th of June of 2024, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the government must start drafting Haredim. The courts
Hmm.
also invalidated the 2023 decision of exemptions. In 2023, there was a decision of exemptions. And 25th of June 2024, the Supreme Court unanimously decided enough with the exemptions. That's it. You must start. You must start drafting now. And it brings us to this month that Shas and Degala Torah Gimel signaled for since January, pretty much they have started signaling very heavily that they might quit the government. They might motion to dissolve or just collapse the government. Like Yair Lapid, as he does, jumped on the opportunity and he filed a motion to dissolve a vote to dissolution that will take place in 2 days, which is Wednesday this week. And now we have a makeup of the current people who are set to vote against. Which remember, again, you need only 61, a slim majority to pass that. If 61 people vote in order to dissolve the government, it automatically dissolves.
Simple
And
majority.
exactly. And Degala Torah Gimel already stated that they will be voting against it. As we can remember, that's 7 votes. That's already getting there if they all make it, if everyone from, the opposition votes as well. This morning, Shas has stated that they will be as well voting to dissolve the government. And there's a wild card in here, which is a very big controversy in Israel right now, a name that some of you might be familiar, Yuli Edelstein, that said he's going to vote against the government as well, even though he is in the coalition. He's in the Likud. Not a lot of people are happy that he's in the Likud, but he's going to vote against the government, against the same coalition he sits in, and he's going to dissolve the government. So as it stands, there is going to be a vote, and the voting doesn't seem great for the coalition. And
No.
that's a problem. So I sent you in the morning. What Likud is trying to do now is basically bring
Stall for
forth,
time.
yeah,
They're
stall for
trying to
time.
stall for time.
Yes, they're going to try to push it off. And already, Gantz and Lapid already told their party members to cancel all of the resolutions that they were planning on bringing on Wednesday to try to cut time because they
Hmm.
understand the game. The problem is, as you said perfectly, it's just stalling for time.
Hmm.
It's not a solution. It's just stalling for time. Um, if they have to vote it in the middle of the night, if they have to vote, if it will take a few hours extra, if they'll have to vote in a day later, a week later, it's not. It's just stalling.
Right.
Um,
Like without Shas and Degolatora, there will not be any path to victory for the coalition. They'll be
Sadly,
down
without
17
even one of
seats.
them. Yeah, without
Right.
even one of them. Without Degolatora or even in
Shas.
some cases, yeah, even in some cases, a few Knesset members miss. Just Yuli Edelstein can make the difference because at the end of the day, you need 61. The opposition have already 52. If no, yeah,
Right.
makes they need one of them. Sorry, my bad. Um, and that's a problem. It's going to be a big waste of time. It's going to be a big waste of money, and that's where we're sitting right now.
So there's a lot of inter politics that are going to make this an interesting gamble for everyone because obviously the reason that Shas and Degolatora are threatening to leave is because they want the exemption for Haredi draft to be enshrined further in the basic law, which I don't believe Netanyahu has the votes to pass even if he wanted to. So I have a feeling that they're kind of barking at the moon on this one because even if Netanyahu guarantees them he will do X, Y, and Z, the Supreme Court will step in and overrule whatever he says, as they've demanded that Haredi students be drafted.
Yes.
So it could just be we're in a position where we'll see Degolator and Schatz leave, but even if there's a new election and it turns out just like this one, there will be no offer that Netanyahu or the left can make that will satisfy them because it won't pass Supreme Court muster.
But there is a scary monster here that the Supreme Court might And we've seen them do shadier things. So it's not out of the realm
Hmm.
of possibility to make some sort of under the table agreement with the left and with the Haredim
Hmm.
as well of, hey, we can ignore certain things and maybe you won't get everything you want, but at least, you'll get some. And the sad truth is that Derry did this already. He did this even
Hmm.
in one of the biggest mistakes of Israel, the Oslo Accords. He moved to
Right.
Rabin's party to try to get more favorable government assistance for his yeshivas.
Right.
And
Not
if
only did
that,
it pass
yeah,
Oslo, it sent him to prison.
yes.
Listen,
So
obviously, when you're talking about Israeli elections, you're talking about a much different animal than we have here in the States or that you'll see in Europe, because there is no, number one, there is no presidential election. So you're not electing a single individual. You're electing a party. And that party has a head, which the Likud party's head is Netanyahu. So if Likud wins the most seats in parliament, he'll have the opportunity to try to form a government. But without a majority of Likud, which that won't happen, he still has to make deals with other parties. Otherwise, even though he's the head of the largest party in the parliament, it doesn't necessarily mean he will be prime minister.
yes, because
So,
unless he gets somehow over 61 seats, which last election he got half of that, there's no way forward without making deals with some. And we need to remember that without the Likud, there isn't a big right wing bloc. There's a big left wing bloc. The left wing has a bunch of parties that
mhm.
they can make coalitions with. But for the right wing, they're basically set with only a specific ones. And if the Haredis are not going to play ball, this doesn't leave any room for error whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, it just means that
Also,
they
the
will.
Haredim
Yeah,
don't have many allies either, other than themselves.
yes,
There's not a strong, like even amongst the religious Zionists who can at least have some level of feeling towards it, they aren't going to put their entire careers on the line or risk a government in order to give, like they won't boycott a right-wing government because the Haredim are going to be drafted. It's just not important enough to them.
yes. And
So,
from what I'm seeing now, from some reports, the left bloc, especially like Gantz and Lapid, are promising the Haredi stuff. But again, whether the Haredim take them on the bait or not,
mhm.
we will have to wait and see. But essentially, the thing that bothers me here is that this is clearly not Likud's fault.
No.
Likud already managed to pass a few things. Likud have been doing what they promised. Maybe they didn't achieve it, but that's because of the entity that is above all and, the God of Israel, the Supreme Court.
Right.
So this move by the Haredim is, a lot of people say, yes, they just want to show what they care about, which is completely understandable. This is what you should be doing for your constituents.
Sure.
But it doesn't achieve anything because you're not fighting the dog. You're not fighting, it's like a dog fighting the stick and not the person beating him with the stick. No matter what
Right.
you will do, no matter if you dissolve the government, no matter if you tell them I'm not going to join unless you do this, it's not up to them.
Right.
They can promise you all they want, but at the end of the day, your real fight here is with the Supreme Court and not the parties that are being elected.
Also, there's the issue is so tricky when you start getting into it that you realize that there has been so many years of garbage poured into this issue that both sides have a narrative that's not necessarily true, right? And in that you have the left wing and even, I mean, you have basically the non-religious Israel who doesn't want to exempt all Haredim from the draft. They want them to serve in the army. The problem is that the majority of them have a stated goal that the reason they want them to serve in the army is they want to secularize them.
Yeah.
They want to take away their insular religious upbringing. They want them to be housed in barracks with women. They want them to attend ceremonies with women. They want them to eat food that isn't on their kosher standards. And most importantly, they want them to take orders from the Israeli high command as opposed to taking orders from their rabbis.
Yes.
This is an issue because this is openly stated. And over the years, they have kind of run the narrative that the Haredim are draft dodgers, that they're all welfare queens, and that it's basically government benefits that are keeping them in a yeshiva as opposed to in an army uniform.
Yeah.
But they've also set a lot of these things up to be this way. Like Haredim, once they graduate yeshiva at 18, and it goes on to the next level of yeshiva, they're not permitted to work if they're given an exemption from the army and they are in learning full time. If they work, they lose their exemption. So there's only an option to take student welfare in order for them to survive, or unless they're independently wealthy, which, as we know, they're not, most of them.
Yeah.
Secondly, you're dealing with a population that gets married very young. So most of these yeshiva students, by the time they're 18 or 19, are already married, which already cuts your army service down by, I believe, half.
Yeah.
So if you're married, you're already cutting your service in half, and they're already approaching an age where they can apply for a full exemption anyway, being married and then once they have a child, it's even then it's their exemption is basically fulfilled anyway. So there could be much better ways to deal with this, but because both sides have so little trust that the other is acting in good faith, there's not much room for arguing in terms of the merits of whether they should serve or not. And it's just based on the narrative that both sides have put together, which some part of it is true, some part of it is not. But I don't believe there's any avenue right now for the government to promise wide scale exemptions without any kind of give back from the Haredim. And the Haredim are not budging an inch on this. They're not going to say, well, okay, draft 20%, draft 10%, draft whatever. They're saying zero draft. They're willing to protest in the streets over it.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's an answer to this to begin with.
And what's sad is that if collectively people would want to work on this together, it already has been done and been semi-successful. We can see Nachal, we can see Kfir, we can see Netzach Yehuda, we can see so many examples
Hmm.
that it worked. There's a bunch of Haredim that serve in the army, a bunch of even Hasidim even that serve in the army, and they're doing great. They daven when they want to daven. They put tefillin every day. They get kosher meals. They get even time to study, and it's been a success. But when it becomes such a political stance, and especially from the Supreme Court that doesn't want to give a win and know how delicate and how stubborn the Haredim are about this issue, that they won't give an inch as well. And in the end of the day, they have the final word. Their word is God in Israel.
Hmm.
And I keep emphasizing
And
this
so
to
is the other
show
side because their rabbi's word is God.
exactly. And we meet somewhere in the middle that they don't want to move. They don't want to move, but who's stuck is us because we
Hmm.
need to go through a whole election cycle. We need to go through a chance that we'll go over about the polls that don't look good. But even though, what we think about polls, but we'll go over them anyways. But
Sure.
to get to a possibility just when we're getting all the wins, when we're literally as we speak, we are surrounding Khan Yunis. We have killed
Hmm.
all of the Sinwars. Forget Yahya Sinwar. We killed all of them. We turned them all into mash. And we're so close to striking Iran. Even small stuff that matter, right? That no one could have
Hmm.
expected, like the government attorney general or whatever, however you translate her job description in English, the Yoamashi.
Attorney
It
General.
Yeah, she is being summoned next week to a kind of a court by Sarim in the government to review her performance and possibly finally get rid of her. And
Hmm.
all of this can be completely, I don't want to say ruined, but in the best case scenario, delayed because of a move like this.
Right. You can also go a step further in that, and this is the dumbest part about it, to be honest. The Haredim were moving towards serving in the army to begin with, naturally.
Yeah,
And I've talked with many people about this. I have my own opinion as to why that is. And I look at an uncle of mine's family, right? My uncle, who's, I would say, in his 70s, right? he he was the first in his family to make Aliyah, and he worked in the States for the whole time he was in Israel. Like he still lives there now, but he's retired. And he made a lot of money. He was a real estate investor. They owned buildings all over the States. They made a lot of money.
Right.
And he had six children, six religious children, all Haredim. And the cultural norm in Israel is that when your child gets married, you help buy them an apartment, you help buy them furniture, you help buy them the books they're going to need because they're going to be set up in learning as per their kind of culture.
Yeah.
Now, this was okay for him. He has his house, his kids all have their apartments now, and they're all fine. But now his kids have kids, and the money isn't there anymore for his kids to buy his grandkids apartments and furniture and all of that. The money's just not even there. Even if they were to sell their own homes and start renting, they still wouldn't have the money to put down because each one of them has between 5 and 13 children. So now the money's running out. The money that fostered this culture in the first place of setting up children to learn for years after they finish what would be considered high school in most countries. So they were making already the move towards joining the army to give themselves a leg up in society in the first place. Not to mention there's Hesder yeshivas, which are more for religious Zionism, but easily could become Haredi yeshivas as well, where they would learn for a year and a half and serve for a year and a half. And there it was happening organically to begin with. It just wasn't happening at the rate that anyone wanted. And as I said, it also ignored the left wing's desire of secularizing them. Like
Yeah.
even the ones that were going into Haredi units. They had no intention of secularizing. They were not going to violate Jewish law in order to serve. But you were seeing more and more and more of it. But when the government decides, okay, this isn't going fast enough and wants to draft all of them, now you have a serious problem. You have a problem with a group of people who will not be group victimized, let's say, as by this kind of thing. And what makes it even worse at this point is that you have this group that doesn't want to serve. They were already organically serving, but now the numbers are going to start going down. And even if you get the win, what will more likely happen is that you won't have people going into the army, you'll have people going to jail, which serves
Yeah.
nobody, you
Exactly.
know?
And to contrast that as well with a few things, that first of all, from the right wing perspective, as you
Hmm.
said, it has been a trend for a few years now that Haredim, especially after 7th of October, are naturally going to serve. There was this famous photo outside of the Lishkat Gius in Jerusalem, the one that's famously protested daily, right, by Neturei Karta types.
Right.
Um, there has been this famous photo a few months after 7th of October of a line around the block of yeshiva guys waiting in line to go to the Shkadyus. And from the right wing perspective, that was a win. Every
Hmm.
time from a right wing perspective, when you see a soldier dressed with like putting on tefillin, with a beard, it fills you up with warmth. You're like, look at that, we can do this. We can do this
Yep.
together. We're a cohesive society. You can go to the army and still keep everything you want to keep, and that's awesome. And
Hmm.
to contrast that not only from the hate coming from the left that we're used to, but also that their society, the extreme left or the left beyond the center, they don't have a society of drafting either. Almost all of
Nope.
those leaders, their children have never been to the army. They don't serve.
Nope.
They do everything to get out of it, right? And
Right.
it's just here to cause more turmoil because again they know something that is very accurate that they can collapse the government with this. It's a
Hmm.
card.
Which gives them their goal of being able to sabotage Netanyahu, which is what their
Exactly.
primary goal actually is. And what
Exactly.
makes it even worse is that there's an option that also already exists in Israel that no one is exploring. It's mostly an option for women in that if they don't feel comfortable going into the army, either because they're religious or they're pacifists or something like that, they could do what's called national service, Shirut Lumi,
Yep.
right? So you already have cases where most Haredim work on Zaka, they work on Hatzalah, they work for Magen David Adom, they work for burial services. There's 100 different charities that the religious already volunteer for. So why
Mhm.
not just make their army service that they have to go to basic training, learn how to use a weapon in defense, and that if need be, they could be called up for an absolute necessity of war. But their service is to their own communities and to Israel as the whole in charity functions, right? And I don't mean charities like, hey, we're gonna, provide wedding cakes for people that don't have money for wedding cakes. I mean real EMS services, fire services, things like that. And this would be something that I know every side would be okay with, and they're just not willing to do it because of, as I said, their stated goal, which is to secularize them.
Yes,
So, which
exactly.
won't happen. And the
Of
last
course.
thing we need right now is this level of internal strife. So it's a very sad day that this could paralyze the government, or even worse, lead to Netanyahu not being prime minister and us getting a left-wing government. Or the other option is Bennett, who has already been a disaster for Israel and would continue to be one right
Yes.
now. I mean, a lot of people were very hopeful about Bennett, that he would be a more right-wing leader than Netanyahu, and he turned out to be worse. He
Yeah.
was the first right wing party to ever form a government with the Arabs. He put a rotation prime minister in place with Yair Lapid, and generally the only legislation that got passed under him was left wing legislation to begin with.
And something
So,
something about the right, the more right wing, like the Ben-Gvir, the Smotrich type. There is a
mhm,
very simple, and maybe it's a call on for them, for anyone that supports them. There is a very simple recipe to get what you want with this government. Stop
mhm,
thinking about winning. You will not. The majority of Israel is not going to vote for what they consider, which we probably won't on this podcast, but what the majority of Israel will consider too far to the right. Not going to
mhm,
happen. What you need to do is get together. Stop with this splitting off from Gottlieb going there, from Smotrich going there, from Betvir going there. Make your own cohesive, whatever you want to call it, more right wing party and become what the Haredim are, an essential tool for a right wing government that can
mhm.
collapse it if you don't get what you want. I'm not saying do this, but I'm saying I see this all of the more right wing, right? And I wish them luck because I want Israel to be more right wing, but they're not going about it
Mhm.
correctly. They're trying to win. You won't win. Not now, not in the next 5 to 10 elections. I'm sorry. That's the truth. Don't
They're not
focus
going to
on
win
winning.
in general. They're not going to win in general. Here's the problem with any party that's based on ideology and not on realism. Okay, is that right-wing ideology sounds great. It's the same thing when you talk to libertarians, right? Their economics are sound and their policies sound great. They just don't work in practice. So what you need from libertarians is that they maintain their fringe, they integrate with in America it would be with the Republicans, and they're able to influence legislation a little further than it would normally go, because no one is going to pass a law abolishing the government like the libertarians want and turning it over to the states. Just like in Israel, no one is going to realistically discuss transferring all of the Israeli Arabs out of Israel, or, deciding to carpet bomb the Yehuda and Shomron. Like the
Yeah.
things that they want are never going to be influenced, but they can put together a set of principles that will influence legislation, and they can also make their own demands. They can say that,
Yeah.
as and the term you were looking for was kingmaker, that what since no party in Israel has any hope of getting an outright majority, there are going to be smaller parties that are always going to decide whether government happens or not. They're called
Yes.
kingmakers. As kingmakers, they can put together a list of, let's say, 5 things that are incredibly important to them that they won't join a government without. And I don't mean anything ridiculous that wouldn't happen, because then even if they were promised that, they wouldn't get it.
Yes.
They would find a way to stop it before delivering. But if they were to make, let's say, easier access to gun ownership for people in Yehuda Shomron and Jerusalem, or just in the country in general, if they were to make the death penalty, which is already on the books, something that Israel started operating with in practice for terrorists,
Yep.
if there was going to be a complete destruction and transfer of the Arabs out of Gaza, These are all things that they can put together and say, these are our list of demands in order to join a government. They're doable. They've all been expressed at some time or another as something that the Netanyahu governments have wanted to do. So we want these five things if we're going to assist you in forming a government. And now you have a program that people can live with, right?
Yeah.
You don't seem Netanyahu doesn't seem as if he's caving to the right wing, and the right wing is implementing policies which are generally popular amongst the population. So you have a total win-win. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be how it works in Israel. In Israel, they do the opposite. What they
Yep.
do is they make unattainable demands, and sooner or later, in order to form a government, the prime minister elect, which in this case, let's say would be Netanyahu, will promise to work his best at it. It won't happen because it never was going to happen in the first place. Both sides knew this. And as soon as they get mad at Netanyahu about something else that he does, they threaten to collapse the government again based on him not
Yeah.
fulfilling these
And it's a
promises
very Israeli
that
thing.
were unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
a
how many
very Israeli
elections has
thing
there
because
been?
it's not politics, it's haggling. And that's in our core. And again, if for example, it takes Smotrich, right, or Ben Gvir, choose either or. It
Right.
doesn't matter. They're the same person. One of them's a bit fatter. That's it. Take
Right.
them. Take a Yelet Shaked. If you want some libertarians, take Zalika, Yaron Zalika. Take all of these fringes that never pass the Achuz Chasima in Israel, but get votes, right? Ayelet Shaked, last elections, did not pass the Achuz Chasima, but she got 1% of the votes.
Hmm.
That's a good chunk. Take that. Take your own Zalika's votes. Make one cohesive party. And guess what? I guarantee if you do that, you will get more votes combined than what you will get together because there will be one cohesive thing to rally around instead of
Right. Now, and
fighting.
also, I don't know if this has a solution, but this is a problem in Israeli politics that doesn't traditionally exist in other politics, right? Typically, when a government is formed in any country, they have a list of things or at least principles that they're going to act under, right? And there's certain legislation they promise to their electorate that they're going to pursue. In Israel, they have those things. They just never actually do it because whenever there's a push for them to fulfill their promises, they just switch to the security situation because that's
Yep.
just the way to do it. You can always it's you even see it with Trump to some degree. He'll switch to foreign policy when he realizes there's nothing domestically to give him a win, right?
Yep.
So if let's say tax cutting taxes was on the agenda for Netanyahu and the right wing, and they see that they're not going to be able to cut taxes because they need the money that's being brought in, right? To for whatever reason, then whenever it comes up with the budget, they'll just pass a budget because they'll say the security situation is so dire they have to focus on the security situation right now, and next year they'll worry
Yes.
about taxes. Same thing with
Yep.
civil liberties, same thing with a constitution, same thing with all of the principles that the right or left wing would stand for. They get to just ignore now because, after all, there's a security situation. And right now, that's probably 10 times worse than it's ever been because now there's not just a perceived security situation, there is a major one.
Yes.
So, if on Wednesday this all goes the way that it looks like it's going to go, and Shas and Gimel leave the government, and now there's going to be a new election, there won't be any other issues on the ballot, as far as I'm concerned. Like, yes, I think there'll be some lip service paid to Supreme Court reform. There'll be some
Yep.
lip service paid to the radical right, radical left, but the real issue is going to be Iran and Gaza. Those are
Yes.
going to be the issues that are on the ballot, which I don't I what I see personally is that what the Knesset looks like right now, the parliament looks like right now, is what it's going to look like then too.
Yes.
And you're gonna have the same situation where without the Haredim, the religious Zionists, and Netanyahu forming a government, there won't be a government, and the left wing won't be able to form one either.
Yes. And if they do, we need as you said, there's gonna be a Gaza thing on the agenda. The problem is
Right.
that if it comes to a leftist government, the agenda is not anymore Gaza. The agenda is the hostages, which is a very good cause, obviously a very important one. Some say the most important one, but expect them to make concessions to Hamas. Expect them to do whatever they can to get all of the hostages back, and that includes anything. That includes
Hmm.
selling out your kids' security. That includes selling out your security and for Israel's forever security. And I guess that we will know Wednesday if we will dedicate more time to talking about what could look like the future with any given um government. But if you want, I compiled a few polls, a couple of polls that we
Go
can
for it.
go through. So I compiled one from the left, one from the right, as you can imagine, drastically different. Um,
Of course.
yeah, very. Two very big ones. One was just the first more leaning left place I could find Ma'ariv, and then from the most, cohesive right wing, which is Channel 14. Um, so there's now when they poll in Israel, because Bennett doesn't have an official party yet, they polled two different polls, if Bennett was running or if Bennett wasn't. I discarded the ones without Bennett because let's be honest, if there is an election in a half a year or whatever, he's running. He's gonna make a
He's
party.
already registered to run.
Yeah,
He just hasn't formed a party yet, most likely
exactly.
because he's going to try to pick off some Likud members to do it.
Yes,
Probably
and that's gonna
Sar, or maybe Edelstein.
yeah, and that's not gonna be good. But so this is the let's start with the Ma'ariv one, the more left wing one. So for them in
Hmm.
top space, if you would vote today for a prime minister or for a party in Israel, the top pick is Bennett with 27 seats. Um, what you will notice as well is that almost every party is getting stretched pretty thin.
Hmm.
Second place is Likud with 20 seats, which if
Oof.
happens, yeah, if happens, that's a drastic fall from the 32 seats of last time, which again
Right.
wasn't very good, but still, yeah. The Democrats, which is Yair Golan, which sadly he's starting to recover in the polls. He's starting
As they do.
yep, he's starting to garner Israel's sympathy back after saying the most horrific anti-Israel shit you can possibly say.
As
Um,
they do.
yeah, him and Greta Thunberg are probably having a blast as we speak. So he's
Right.
going to get 11 seats. Right after him is Israel Beintenu, which is Lieberman with 10 seats. After that is Yesh Atid, which is Yair Lapid with 9 seats. Shas with 9. Hamachane Mamlachti, which is Gantz and Eisenkow, and now they're going to have primaries apparently. They have
Hmm.
decided recently they're going to have primaries, so it might be Eisenkow's new party. Who knows? I don't
Right.
believe so. I believe it will still be Gantz's party. Um, Out of all of the left, if I had to choose, I would choose Gantz, but that's just a personal thing because I don't think he's a dumbass compared to the left. Um, so they will get 8 seats. After that is Otzma Yehudit, which is the Ben Gvir's with 8 seats. After that is Degel Torah Gimel with 8 seats, which is a big fall from their other. No, actually, that's Gaming One. Sorry, um,
Right.
from last elections. Then there is Ram, which is Arab Party. They get 6 seats, and Chadash Ta'al, which is another Arab Party, which gets 4 seats, and that's all. No one else is going to
Hmm.
pass. You'll notice that Smotrich's party does not pass, which is
Really?
very interesting. Yeah, according to the Ma'ariv poll, Smotrich, the Tzionut Datit, does not pass. That will
But they would
leave,
do what they did last time in that they'll combine with Ben Gvir's party to form one party so that they both pass.
hopefully, hopefully,
Hmm.
hopefully, we can only hope. So
Uh,
I would say that's the worst case scenario. That leaves the current coalition with 45 seats and the opposition with 75. That's assuming if they combine with the Arabs, which they will.
sure.
Um, yeah, so grim, really bad forecast. If that's the case, which I don't believe, but that's bad. Now we'll go to the Channel 14 one, which again is the most right wing actual mainstream media that have polling capabilities that we can get. By the way, both of these are from 3 days ago, so as recent as I could find. Um, so for them, first place, unsurprisingly, is Likud with same amount of seats, 32. They didn't move up or down from last one, which is not
Right,
good. We need to remember that's not good because 32 for Likud is bad. So the
right.
fact that they're staying with the same amount of seats is not a good thing. It's just whatever. Okay. So after that,
Now, just remember also what that would show. It would show if Likud stays the same, it shows that not only are people satisfied with the way that Netanyahu's running the war, but they also hold him responsible for 10/7. It
yes,
shows that he has not gained the support of a war hero. He has not been crucified as being the idiot who let 10/7 happen. It means that most people's feelings towards him have not changed.
yes,
So they elected him to be a stronger leader than a left-wing party. They got what they wanted, but they also think that his nonsense and his politics and his divisiveness helped cause 10/7.
yes.
So
Not a good look.
no.
Second after Likud is the Democrats, which is Yair Golan. Shocking for
So,
a Channel 14 second, but again, that's what we're getting. Um, so he's getting 14 seats, which is again
right.
a very big drops here. This is even more stretched out list. Uh, Third place is going to be Bennett with 14 seats. After that is going to be Israel Beitain, which is Lieberman with 9 seats. After that is going to be Degel Torah, 8 seats, same as last elections. After that is going to be Otzma Yehudit, which is Ben Gvir with 7. After that is going to be Hamachaneh Mamlachti, which is Gantz and Eisenkot. They're going to get 6 seats. Yesh Atid, Yair Lapid's with 5, which I'm very happy seeing Yesh Atid
Mm,
tanking in all the polls. He's not very favored. What was his? Yeah, last elections. We need to remember he got 24 seats, and from the
right.
leftist one, he gets 9. From the right wing one, he gets 5. Not good, which I'm celebrating. I'm very happy about. But let's move on. After that is Ra'am and Chadash Ta'al, the two Arab parties, each get 5. After that, Tzionut Datit, which again is Smotrich coming in at the lowest one with 5 seats as well, but with the lowest percentage of people. And that also leaves him the bottom of the barrel, even from Channel 14. And that is actually, and we need to remember, this is from Channel 14. And this forecast is also terrifying because what that means is that the coalition has 62 and the opposition has 58, which is
Hmm.
terrible. And why I don't like polls is because there is something in Israel um, that I don't know if anyone ever coined a term for, but I would call it something like Netanyahu voting booth syndrome. And that
Hmm.
everyone can say whatever they want. They can shout all day, but when they're in the voting booth and they see all the names, they say, fuck, whatever. And they just choose
Hmm.
Netanyahu. That's what happens every time. And I believe it will happen again.
So the political scientists have a expression for this. I forgot what the actual expression is called. Also, the way people vote is they tend to vote emotionally and they tend to vote almost sporadically. Is that they could be a Netanyahu voter for the entire time, right? That they're planning to go there and vote for Netanyahu. And on that day, something gets reported in the news, or they woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they say, you know what? There's something about this guy I don't like anymore, and they just impulsively vote for someone else. Usually someone like more radically or things like that. That being said, how many people will do that with Netanyahu this time? We don't know. Because again, I don't know if the public has been properly polled or if even if they're trying to properly poll it, do people hold him more responsible for 10/7, or do they congratulate him for the way he's run the war? Because that's what will decide Netanyahu's future. Is if more people believe he's run the war well, then he was responsible for 10/7, he wins. If more people think he was responsible for 10/7 and then he run the war well, he loses.
Yes, and
And
and it brings us to a pretty interesting area actually that And a senior member of the coalition, anonymously today, to I don't remember exactly what channel, he said that Netanyahu it wants elections. That Netanyahu is
I don't believe that.
actually, I don't believe that as well, but I see why they might be saying it, and I'll tell you why I might be believing it if I get more proof. Is that what you said about the way people will really see Netanyahu will not, we don't know now. We're still in the fog of war. They will only know when everything's done, whether it will be done or not.
Sure.
If in 2 years, because the next elections are going to be without this in 2026, in the end of 2026. If nothing major happened until then, yes, he will be known as a big, big failure of how he run this war, of how he conducted this war. Um, so giving him elections now while he's still in it, and the perception of him not being a failure in the war, again, if that will happen, has not happened yet, that actually might give him an edge because then next elections are in 4 years after that. So he,
Well,
even if he
hopefully.
failed, yeah, hopefully, exactly. So even if he fails the war, quote unquote, he will still have a few years to do something to empower. If he even runs again, we need to remember the dude's old. He's not here
Right.
forever. As it doesn't matter how much it seems that the dude's immortal, he's not. He's aging by the minute, and he's not going to be here in politics for a long time. I hope he has a very long and fulfilling life after that. But in politics, he's not going to be here for long. So,
Right.
in some sense, having an election now, if he truly believes, and I believe as well, that he will take it, actually is good for him personally. It's not good for Israel, according to the polls we see right now. I don't see a situation that Israel created in the last 4 years, 2 years, 3 years, more leftists than right wingers. So I don't see these polls. I don't get it. I don't believe that suddenly more people became left leaning after October 7th. I don't see that. So I
There's
believe he
also going
will
to be
take
the
it.
factor of how many people want to change horses in the middle of a race.
Exactly.
Regardless of what's going on, Netanyahu is running this war. And to change the commander in the middle of a war can be devastating.
Yes.
And so the person that's looking to replace him would have to have such a vote of confidence that it would be overwhelming. And I don't see that happening. I don't see anyone having that level of support.
Yes.
So,
And let's put it like this, even though it's not really a term in Israel because we don't really have that, but swing voters, however small they may be, I do not see them swinging left this particular occasion. I see them
no.
moving to the right. Yes, exactly. I see them moving to the right. So these polls, I don't know what their issue is, but this is what I think about them because again, they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. There's going to be a right wing government. Netanyahu's going to win. I'm sorry to tell you this. He will. That's what happened every time. He's going to do it again. You don't believe me? Check our last 20 years. He's just going to win. And this whole power play by the Supreme Court using the Haredim, because it's not a, I don't believe it as a power play by the Haredim. I see it as a power play by the Supreme Court using the Haredim. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of attention, most of all, because we need to be cohesively against what we need to do right now, which is way bigger things than elections.
Hmm.
And it's sad to
I
see
agree.
that, yeah, it's sad to see that Wednesday we might be going down that route. A lot of people in Israel don't believe they will, but again, it's because of maybe that very hopeful, um we always make it in the end, which is true, but I think the always make it in the end will come in the form of winning another election and not necessarily creating a miracle last second, which could be awesome. But I do not see
Yeah.
it happening, especially with the coalition already starting to move towards preparations for an elections. Netanyahu already thinking of some, some weird ways to delay the voting. If he was confident that he had a talking point with the Haredim parties to make them not vote, he would not be doing this.
Right.
So that's where it leaves us again. Actually, did you see that Iran has practically responded to the American, speaking of Iran, to the American offer, and they said
I've
no.
only seen that they were planning to. I didn't see that they
Yeah.
did.
So I don't know if that would translate correctly. The exterior minister, however you would call it, foreign
Hmm.
relations minister, whatever you call that job, he came out and said that they're going to reject it. Which is the soft landing for them rejecting it. And again, it's what I've been saying for a few days. People are freaking out. There's not going to be a strike. No, it's the same exact playbook we did with Hamas. Same exact playbook. Give them an offer they cannot accept, and then blame it on them, which is a brilliant move. I'm for it. Whatever, if they get schwacked in the end, I don't care how it comes. If from slimy negotiations or not, I don't care.
Right.
So I'm happy to see that they're going to turn it down. Now I'm curious if the US will try to offer another offer, even though they have canceled the talk this week, which is a very interesting move because they didn't even give a reason. They have yet to give a reason why they canceled the talks with Iran, but it could be pointing to, hey, Trump had enough, and he has a lot of on his plate right now. Obviously, with LA, Gaza is still unfinished with a lot of stuff. He doesn't need, and Russia, Ukraine flaring up all the time. He doesn't need to continue talking with Iran. He needs to shut them up, and that will be a win. Whether Tucker Carlson thinks it will be a win or not, I don't think Trump cares, and no one cares.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And I think that if they attack Iran successfully, I think Bibi cements any election that could
Yes.
possibly happen, which is why he might not mind going to elections right now if he's convinced that they're going to attack Iran.
Yes. And I believe they will. There's again, the report came out today, actually, a few hours ago, that from the IAEA, the UN, that basically snitched on Iran with their nuclear testings.
Hmm.
That's not allowed.
No. So, I mean, we'll end on that note because there's so much coming up. We'll record the next session
Yes.
probably later this week, and we'll update everybody after Wednesday because after Wednesday is going to be the fireworks. So
Yes.
hopefully Thursday morning we'll have a new recording for you saying that elections have been averted or that they've been triggered, and now what does this mean for us?
Exactly.
This is Halsey English with my co-host Noam Roth for the Rebuilding the Kingdom podcast. I always fuck up the name. I'm sorry,
You still fucked it up,
but
but it's fine. We'll
I
we'll get
know. Don't worry. We'll figure it out sooner or later. But thanks very much everyone for joining us. We will be in Twitter Spaces all week. Please find us there. Have a great day.
יוצא עליך וואלה יש לי נשק אוטומטי חבורה של מתיישבים הולכים חסר קצת נאצים זה לקח כמה שנים אבל בסוף אני הבנתי